Hey guys, it's Derp here again with another build guide. This is going to be another point tank build guide for wars. You can also use this in dungeons pretty effectively. You might want to change some stuff up for dungeons, but this is a good PvP or PvP build. It works really well for point tank. You can play it in medium and go for damage, but it's not really recommended. There's probably not going to be too many of these in wars, like one or two maximum, but I do think that this is a very valuable role to have. And I'll go over that in just a minute. But yeah, it's a point tank build with the Blunderbuss and Sword and Shield. You have a lot of tankiness and survivability. You help add fortification to your entire team. On defenses, this is really, really good for blocking the doorways so that your people, you can kind of sit in the front and block all of the damage that they send in to kind of soften you up before they come in through the doors. It's also really good in OPRs if you have a healer with you. For solo play OPRs, it's not the best, but for group OPRs, it's really, really good, and I'll go over that in a minute. So let's start out with what I use for my build. Most of my armor is honestly just the PvP track stuff for this. It's all 625. It's free. It's easy to get, and it has two out of the 3 perks I want. And stacking Shrinking Heals is actually okay. It's decent if you stack it. Having 1 or 2 pieces is kind of useless, but it's better than nothing. And I have 1 Biss pair of boots that I got out of a Rusher's box. I have a Biss Shield, Hill Strength, Refreshing Ward, Fortifying Shield Rush, and Slash Ward. This is Biss for point tanks, in my opinion. So I have Shirking Fortification, Resilient, and Refreshing Ward. That's what I'm prioritizing. And then I have the PvP track stuff. So Refreshing Ward, Shrinking Heals, Resilient on all of it, and it's all heavy. So you can get all this stuff for free from the PvP track. I run Champion's Amulet, you get that for free from the PvP track. I run Champion's Ring, you get that for free from the PvP track. And I run Doom's Chance. All of this stuff you can get for free. I run Tainted Metal. It's not the best, but for laying down multiple sources of plague, it's actually really good. Mortal Refreshment isn't bad, because you do get kills with this build from your Blunderbuss. And having that 10% cooldown reduction is pretty good. I would rather have something like Enchanted or a Chain on there, preferably a Chain, like Chain Fire, to get my ult up faster. And then I have just a sword that I bought with Plague Strikes on it. Like, best in slot for this specific build would be Plague Strikes, Trenchant Rend, and Contagious Reverse Stab. And the reason why I take Contagious Reverse Stab over Leaping Strikes usually, the last war I was in, I was testing Leaping Strikes, but I take Contagious Reverse Stab, and I take it on the weapon just because I don't have to change my armor at all. This is the same armor set. I take my shield off, and this is the same armor set I use for my Blunderbuss Great Sword. It's the same set I use for my Blunderbuss Void Gauntlet, my Blunderbuss Ice Gauntlet. It's the same set across the board because this is all con, right? The only strength piece I have is here and here. So, and then my weapons have strength on them as well. But yeah, so for pretty much any build I use with my Blunderbuss, which is my primary weapon, it's like the weapon I use for most of my builds, I have the same exact armor set on. So it just works out really well. So I have Tainted Metal, and then I have Plague Strikes, Keen, Contagious Reverse Stab. And the reason why I take Contagious Reverse Stab on the weapon, again, is so I don't have to change my armor. But it also, Reverse Stab is really good because it takes an active debuff from you and puts it on your enemy, right? Who cares if it does 15% more damage? You're a tank, but you're getting more damage from it if it's on the weapon. If it's on the armor, it doesn't do that last part. And then I'll go into the attributes. So I go 300 strength, 200 con, and then whatever's left over, I just dump it into int. Because I want the grit while I have my sword out for light attacks and heavy attacks. Yeah, 301, 12, 201. I like to go 1 over just because I don't know why. I don't know if it actually does anything, but whatever. I just kind of do it because 2 extra points of intelligence isn't going to do anything. And then I'll go into the weapon masteries. It's pretty similar to every blunderbuss build I run, but I drop barb netting so that I can take artillery, or no, so that I can take future planning. But I take Azeroth Shrapnel Blast all the way down, because you want the bomb, you want the cooldown reduction, you want the extra pellets, and you want the range. The net, Fast Hands is actually really good, because if you hit it, which you usually will, it's going to reduce the cooldown by 20%. And then Apparatus is what inflicts the slow. It increases the slow to 50% in 7 seconds instead of 40% for 3 seconds. So you want to take net for the slow and the mobility, because it knocks you back so you could get out of danger really quickly. I take Deep Load just because it gives you extra damage. I take Fortified Aggression because the Fortify is nice. Unload gives you really good damage on your normal shots, and since you're close and up close and personal, you're going to be able to do a lot of these, especially if you do, there's a weapon swap trick. So I do a lot. I live in my blunderbuss most of the time until my cooldowns are up on my sword and shield. So what I do is I shoot, switch back. It gives me enough time to do like a contagious reverse stab, and then I don't have to, it skips the reload animation. So I don't have to reload. I'll do that again. So you shoot twice, and then your reload's already done. If you do 2 shots and then switch to your sword and shield and do an ability, and then you can switch back to your blunderbuss immediately, and you're already reloaded. So you don't have to, it skips the reload animation when you do it that way. And that's just what I would recommend everybody who plays blunderbuss does, because you get the out of that reload animation, and you're not getting the slow. And then you need splitting grenades. This is going to be where most of your damage comes from, and a plague. Future planning's great because the cooldown reductions. You want to take the grenades all the way down because you want the burn, you want the haste, you want the increased damage to targets with greater than 50% health, and this is just a really good ability. It lays down a lot of damage and a lot of plague. On a roll is really good because it gives you the fortify. Artillery's good. It's not great, but if you launch your bombs far, like when you're in fort phase and you're launching your bombs from the doorway into that clump in the middle to get your plague off, you're going to do a lot more damage. When you're running onto point, you just launch your grenades onto point. So by the time you get back up to point, your grenade cooldown's already back up, and you've plagued everybody on point and started laying down damage. And then last chance is just needed because that 50% fortify, if you're under 50% health, is really great. And the cooldown's not really that long. So that's the blunderbuss setup. For sword and shield, I run shield rush all the way down. I take shield bash. I don't take the other two because who cares about threat and damage on it's 100% more damage, but 100% more or 50% only bumps it up to 100% damage, so it's not really worth it. You're only taking it for the stagger and the slow, or the stagger and the stun anyway. And it works kind of as like a, since it has grit, it works kind of like an iframe for a lot of stuff. Concussive bash, stuns are so easy to break people out of, especially in wars, that the extra second isn't really needed. And I take opportunist instead. And I take opportunist and Achilles heel instead of these two. These are the kind of ones that I drop those for, because the final attack, your light chain, inflicts a 20% slow for 2 seconds. Slows are huge now. These two are kind of must-haves. Empowered stab, successful heavy attacks grant you 30% empower for 5 seconds. And then freeing justice makes you lose 1 debuff. So this with contagious reverse stab drops 2 debuffs. So the more cleansing effects that you have, the better. So it drops off the rend and the plague and all that stuff that stacks up on you. So it just makes you more tanky, because if you get 3 stacks of rend on you or something, then you're going to want to get those off of you because you're going to be taking more damage, right? So you just heavy attack. And if you land a heavy attack and you have Trenchant Rend and Plague Strikes, you are cleansing yourself of a debuff, you're giving yourself an empower, you're rending your enemy, and you're giving them a plague. So, and then if you follow that up with a contagious reverse stab, you're dropping another debuff off of you, you're staggering them, it has grit, and it actually does a decent amount of damage, but it also lowers all of the rest of your cooldowns. So, you can take Leaping Strike as like an initiate or an escape. So I'm going to pause it right here and go over why I take reverse stab instead of Leaping Strike and how that changes the build. So the contagious stab I kind of just went over, but if you take Leaping Strike, you can get rid of Net Shot and take Blast Shot. I like Net Shot as an escape way more than I like Leaping Strike, and the effectiveness of Contagious Reverse Stab, removing debuffs from you, adding them onto your enemy, as well as doing some decent damage, and Net Shot being just a better escape tool than Leaping Strike, kind of makes it so that the benefits of Blast Shot and that rend and slight knockback and the haste and stuff just aren't as effective. Because if you are toe-to-toe with one of their bruisers or their tank or whoever it may be, if you have a bunch of rends and plague and stuff stacked up on top of you and you switch one of those rends or plagues onto them, they die immediately. So Contagious Reverse Stab is a little bit more difficult to land, but once you get used to it, it's an amazing ability, and it doesn't have the knockback part of Blast Shot, and it just has a lot more effectiveness. But I'll get back to the video. The other option you have in this build is drop Contagious Reverse Stab, take Leaping Strike. Then you wouldn't need any sword and shield perks except for Fortifying Shield Rush, and that's on your shield. Leaping Strike is okay, and you'd want to take it. You don't necessarily even need to take it all the way down because you're just using it as an escape, but it would allow you to free up two more perks. So you'd go similar situation, get Leaping Strike, just take Leaping Strike, and then you could add like High Grip or one with the shield, right? So, or you could take Precision to get more crit, or counterattack's pretty decent too if you're actually using your shield to block, and then critical precision is okay because you get a haste and you do a lot of crits, so it gives you a lot of haste. But I would probably take counterattack and precision, or high grip and one with a shield. High grip's okay because it allows you to block like fireballs and stuff, and it makes it so that you take reduced stamina damage when you're blocking. So like blocking doorways and stuff like that with your shield up is actually going to be super effective. Blocking shrapnel blast is going to be super effective. Just any of the, muskets, bows, whatever, any ranged attacks. And then you want to take shield rush all the way down because it's a stagger, a slight knockback, it deals damage, it has grit. Everything within a 5-meter radius is weakened for 10 seconds by 10%. So that's a big AoE. That's the same thing as an Oblivion. Most people don't realize how big of an AoE that shield rush has for its weaken and its slow. And then Intimidating Rush, on a successful hit, all enemies within 5 meters of you are slowed for 30% by 4 seconds. That's huge. That's a huge slow. I take Defensive Formation just because if I do block, anybody within 2 meters is getting that 30%. Anybody within this circle is getting that 30% Fortify. And if you're on point, that's actually a decent amount of people. And then Recuperation, all incoming healing and regeneration is increased by 10%. You just want extra healing is good. Gaining stamina when I hit either one of these is really good. So I'll gain 30 stamina because it doesn't have a cooldown just by shield bashing into shield rush. So what I'll do is shield bash, contagious reverse stab, or shield bash, heavy, contagious reverse stab, shield rush. And I'll get 30 stamina back, right? So even if I'm dodging in between those, I'll still have full stamina, basically. I take Final Blow just for more damage, and I kind of have to take it. I mean, I could drop that and get one with a shield, but I take this just for more damage because I do use light attacks for the slows. And then blocking an attack gets 10% Fortify. Reduce all damage from all magical types by 10%. So This includes alts, all of the alts, because they count as arcane damage. This is huge for alt, because it's gonna, you know, detonate the Skyfall or whatever the heck it's called. All that stuff's gonna take you're gonna take a lot less damage from it. 15% physical armor and heavy. This is an incredible amount of armor. It puts you at basically at armor cap, and then especially since you have a shield, and then you have your stamina damage reduced by 15% when blocking a melee attack. So everything kind of works really well. So with the amount of fortification you get from fortified shield rush, so you have 10% fortify from here. Whenever you block an attack, you have pre-built armor increase, magical resist increase. You're getting more healing. You have a 30% fortify from right here. I think this might actually be a flat damage reduction of 30%. I don't even know if this. I don't even think this goes against fortify cap. I haven't tested that yet, so I'm not sure. I have a hunch that it doesn't count against fortify cap. But you have at least 10% fortify here, and then you have another. If fortifying shield rush is on your shield, it's another 30%, 32% fortify when it's at 600 gear score. So that's a 42% fortify just from blocking one hit and hitting a shield rush, right? So if you're in a sacred, you're already well past fort cap. If you have a orb of protection on you, you're even higher. So rends don't even really matter, because you're going to be at close to like 100% fortification if you're playing on point and the healers are doing their jobs. You're going to be close to 100% fortify. So, and the rend cap is 50%, right? So even if they have a full stack of 50% rend on you, you're still only going to be at you're still going to be at fort cap with this build. So it's just it's insanely hard to kill. I have a war video that I'll link to that you guys could go check out. It's from a war a few days ago where I ran this exact build, except I tried out Leaping Strike instead of Reverse Stab. So you could check that out, or I might play it in the background, who knows. But I basically spec into my armor's physical resistance heavy, and I do physical gems. So I have, what, 2 moonstone? I have a moonstone. I have 2 moonstones. Then I run mostly and then most of it's diamonds. I have 1 onyx, and then I have a fire gem in here just because of muskets and blunderbuss and fire staff. And then, yeah, for the gems. And then I do ignited in everything except I have 1 energized, because that gives me an extra dodge. So if you hit something, so say I dodge, and then I hit somebody, even if I don't have hardy. So it would be, since I have hardy on my ring, it's not really as important, but if I don't have hardy on my ring, which I plan to get rid of it and take something else, like a slash damage with something else, and what I could still do is, it still gives me 3 dodges. So right now I have 3, and then I'm bottomed out. But if I do dodge, hit, attack, and then dodge again, I'll still have that 3rd dodge, right? Because it takes 50 each time, but I have an extra 10 from hardy. So I'll just go to a fort and check it out. So I removed my ring, so I should only be able to do 2 dodges, right? And then I'm stammed out. So if you're just dodging twice backwards, you're going to stam yourself out. But if you dodge, attack, dodge, you can still do the 3rd one. Because if you have 1 energizing rune glass in, it gives you that 1 extra stamina. So even if you don't want to stam yourself out, you can just dodge, attack, and then dodge and then run away, right? And you're not going to be stammed out. So it replaces hardy, in my opinion, because if I have the blunderbuss out and I need to get the hell out of there, I could dodge, and then I still have 2 more dodges after I get out, right? Because that net shot counts as a hit. So the only thing that's really different about it is that the energizing rune glass has a 3-second cooldown, but it's not really that big of an issue. So I can dodge, net, dodge, and I still have 1 stamina, and I could run away, and my stamina's still refilling, right? So I leave 1 energizing in, and I think that's a really good way to free up a perk slot for something better, so that way you could get rid of... It makes Hardy basically useless, in my opinion. If you just have 1 rune glass, and you're losing out on, what, 2% fire damage? To free up I mean, you could put fire damage right here in your ring, right? So you can have, like, Invigorated Punishment, fire damage, and Keen Awareness, right? Would be a good one. You could have basically any combo in there, and like a damage, a Invigorated Punishment, and something else, which really depends on what you want to replace it with. You could have Enfeebling or Poisoning, right? Or Diseased, or whatever. Literally anything that's more valuable than Hardy, because all Hardy's doing is giving you that 3rd dodge. But you can get the same exact effect by putting an Energizing Rune Glass in one of your pieces, right? So that's what I'm going to do, and I've tested it, and it works out really well. You just got to remember to always keep attacking, because otherwise you're going to stam yourself out if you're just doing this, which is bad. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. You shouldn't be triple dodging anyway, because you're going to stam yourself out no matter what armor class you are. But yeah, it's super easy to get away with that, right? Because you just hit between your dodge, and if you have your blunderbuss out, it's just so much easier. And as long as you land 1 of your pellets, you're going to get that one stamina. But yeah, so that's the rune glass. You can't put rune glass in here. The sword, I would probably put just a standard, either... I like, for when I'm tanking, I like to put Jaspers in. Because it's 15% damage for 2 seconds after taking a hit, and I'm always taking hits on point. And then you could put a rune glass in there, like a... what is it? Punishing? Which makes your abilities do more damage. But since you're not doing a lot of damage with abilities, I would just put a plain opal in there, or Jasper. Either one works. Then your armor, I lean towards physical with my gems, just because I load up on gemstone dust. In war, it's a lot cheaper than, at least on my server, it's a lot cheaper than oak flesh. And it protects against, it lowers the damage of detonates, because detonate is magical damage. So if you see somebody or multiple people charging at you with detonate on, you just take your gemstone dust, and when they pop, they're not going to do much damage to you, because you're lowering it by a bunch of elemental damage resistance from my armor, and then I have an additional 10%, and then I have an additional 2% or 2% from all of the gems that I have in, and then I have another 35% on top of that. I've had 4 people detonate on me and survived when I was in the Sacreds, when I had my shield out. So detonates become a basically non-issue if you have a good healer and if you take your gemstone beforehand. But yeah, the combo is pretty simple, right? You just shoot your grenades in onto point, shrapnel blast, shield bash, shield rush, reverse stab whenever you need to. And then if you get in trouble, you just net shot out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll splice in my war footage, so if you want to watch that, yeah, feel free. Have a good day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.